So I hope by now you've all gotten a chance to watch Avatar Remastered that is playing now in theaters. In this video, I will be breaking down and discussing the new scene extension that was added to the movie for the first time. Okay, so in the days leading up to the Avatar Remaster, during a promotional interview, James Cameron teased that he had added a new little segment towards the end of the movie, and asking us to see if we could spot it. Right away, discussion online hoped that he was adding back in a finished version of the new life scene, in which it depicts a lot of Na'vi kids and female Na'vis pregnant, while also showing Jake walk up to Neytiri and place his hand on her stomach, indicating that she is pregnant as well, and teasing the future Sully children. When early screenings revealed it was just a scene extension and brand new and not one of the deleted scenes, the next thought was that it would be an extension of the Gathering of the Clans scene, adding a segment showing them talking to the Metka'ina. But since I'm assuming they didn't help, and the Sully family will be meeting them for probably the first time in the Way of Water, it just didn't make that much sense to me unless it was to show them declining the call. So I was hoping it was something teasing an RDA return, and that's what it turned out to be. So the new scene extension is very quick, but it happens during the scene when you see the RDA personnel loading into the ships to leave. In the original version, Parker Selfridge walks by Jake and Neytiri as he's in the line, and Jake just looks at him and gives him a nudge to continue moving. But in the new version, Parker actually steps out of line and begins to walk towards Jake as Neytiri takes out a knife and hisses. Parker then says to Jake, "You know this isn't over, right?" As he then just gets back in line and the scene continues as it did before. And at first it might seem pretty insignificant, but the more I thought about it, the more I think that was the perfect scene extension to add. And I say this for one specific reason, and that's because now Jake knows for sure that the RDA will return. Of course, it wouldn't be a stretch to just assume they might return, but now this will always be in the back of his mind, and he'll know that they need to prepare for when that day comes. Yes, the scene extension could have been setting up the new clan, or teasing an RDA return but just between themselves, but for me, that wouldn't have been as effective as this one will be, by being something that will not let Jake completely live in peace and carefree. And this is almost likely a product of, at the time, wanting to create a definitive ending to the story. A happy ending in a way. Since it's possible he wasn't even thinking about making sequels at the time, let alone not knowing if this was even going to be a success because of how much of a risk it was. So it was the smart choice to make at the time, but now that we see it's still the #1 movie in the world, and has now 4 sequels planned, it was a great choice to add this return tease in. There is another little retcon that the sequels are making, and that is when it comes to the line that followed, "The time of great sorrow was ending. Taruk Makto was no longer needed." Now knowing the RDA will return, that line doesn't really fit right. The new comics coming up show that. See, in the upcoming High Ground comics, which for anyone new to the channel, will act as the direct prequel to Avatar 2, and will have its ending lead right into the beginning of Avatar The Way of Water. This High Ground story was the original draft of what Avatar 2 would have been before Cameron decided to move the events of Avatar 2 further in the timeline. But these events are still canon and still take place. We just now get this story in comic form, broken up into 3 different volumes. The descriptions of which make a lot more sense now with this new Parker scene. The first one reads, "It has been over a decade since the humans were forced to leave Pandora, but now they're returning with an armada of heavily armed starships. After years of peace, Jake Sully has settled down with Neytiri and raised a family. So for him, the stakes are even higher than when he first went to war against the corporate might of the RDA. But the key one is this one, saying, "Humans have returned to Pandora with an armada of starships, but Jake Sully and the Na'vi are ready for them. Knowing this day would come, Jake has trained his Na'vi warriors with a plan that should make it too costly for the humans to try again, if the plan works." So stating that he knew this day would come ties up nicely now with the line from Parker, and it's not that he just assumed they were coming. But recently we got some preview pages for this new series, and in these pages we see the little retcon with the time of great sorrow happening, stating, "Pandora, what Earth once was, she is. I would die to protect her. This is a story of the time of great sorrow, when darkness swallowed the world. You can't understand the time of great sorrow without understanding what we endured the first time we fought the Sky People." Now I know what you're thinking. This is supposed to be the story of the time of great sorrow, and it is. Because to understand great sorrow, you need to understand how much we lost. So now it's indicated that the events of all these sequels will be considered the time of great sorrow as well, and not just the events of the first movie, as it was implied before, with a lot more loss destined to happen across these next 4 films. So that was my breakdown and discussion of this new scene, and how I believe it was the perfect choice to tease all these stories to come next. But let me know what you thought about the new scene, and if you think it was a good choice. Also in the description will be links to the 3 volumes of The High Ground that have new release dates. The first volume will release on October 25th, the second volume on December 13th, and the third and final volume on December 20th, a few days after Avatar 2 debuts. Once again, probably to not spoil anything, since it will end leading directly into Avatar 2. Also, I have found that they will be combining all 3 volumes on May 23rd of next year into a library edition. Usually these library editions by Dark Horse come with pages a lot bigger in size to the normal versions, and also usually pack a lot of interesting supplemental material in the back, like concept art, interviews with the artist and author, and things of that sort. So I will be picking up the 3 as they release, but I'll also pick up that library edition next year, just because I'm a collector, and it'll be great to read it in a bigger size and have all these extras in the back. I'll link the 3 volumes and the library edition in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, as that really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date on all my future Avatar videos. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.